Hello and welcome to our second episode of Leadership in a Nutshell. Today we have a very special episode with a very special guest. We will be discussing the concept of 8 P's of entrepreneurship with our guests for tonight. Our guest for tonight is an architect, a teacher technologist in HTU, and most importantly, the founder of OT Engineering Solution, a company specialized in cloud based engineering services for eco industry. Our guest tonight was also a part of AIESEC in Jordan and in Germany. We have today Tala Damra. Welcome, engineer.
Hello, hi, Muhammad.
How are you, engineer?
I'm good. I think you can just call me Tala.
Okay. Yeah, for those who doesn't know, Tala is my teacher. She was my teacher last year, so that's why I call her engineer. How are you, Tala? Tell us about your day
I'm,
today.
I'm good. How are you? How was your
Alhamdulillah,
first
tamam.
day of
Good.
Ramadan? Did you go through it? Did you manage?
Yeah, actually. I had a
Good.
bit of tough time, but it's okay. It's first day of
Well,
Ramadan. What about you?
it's all right. It was good. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, Tali, can you start by mentioning your AIESEC experience in both Jordan and Germany for us, please?
Yeah. Well, my ISEC experience obviously started in Jordan when I was a student at university. I studied at GJU
Mm-hmm.
and majored in architecture, like you said. And I joined ISEC in the year before I went on exchange in Germany.
Mm-hmm.
And I was part of um, a team within ISEC that was responsible for sustainability and raising awareness towards the environment, using less plastic, recycling, and so on and so forth.
Nice. Nice,
And then
nice.
when I
That's
went to Germany, I
yeah.
was studying in Mainz, and I wanted to join ISEC because I wanted to meet more people. I wanted to see how ISEC in other countries functions and works.
Mm-hmm.
So I reached out to them and I realized that they're establishing a new LC where I was located. And I
Mm-hmm.
joined them and I was part of establishing the LC of Mainz Wiesbaden with them. I participated in many conferences, um, met a lot of nice people I'm
Mm-hmm.
still friends with them until today. And it was an amazing experience. And it's nice to see and be part of ISEC Germany as well, because Germany is big and they have a lot of LCs and the conferences are huge.
Mm-hmm.
So it was really nice to see that and see how just once an ISECer is always an ISECer. It doesn't matter if you're in Jordan or in Germany or anywhere else. It's just the same environment. And it was one of the best experiences of my life, to be honest.
I totally agree with you, Tala.
Yeah.
AIESEC has been one of the best experiences that I've personally been in. And as you said, once an AIESECer, always an AIESECer.
And,
Yeah.
and I'd like to say something,
Yeah,
Mohammed,
sure.
if you allow me.
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of students are hearing us now from ISEC and from outside of ISEC, and I shared the link with my students as well.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just like to encourage them to reach out to you, those who study in HTU, and ask you more about ISEC.
Of
And
course.
I encourage all of them to join the organization because it's not only about meeting new people and doing voluntary work for the community and leadership skills and learning a lot of things. It changes you as a person and it adds a lot of to you. The people you meet, every single person you meet changes you,
Of course.
and you learn from other people, and it's an amazing place to make friends who will stick with you for life.
Yeah.
So I encourage my students and everybody who's listening to just
I
reach
totally
out to
agree.
you and,
Yeah,
and try to join the organization.
yeah, I will be more than helpful to do that. And of course, as you mentioned, AIESEC is not only about voluntarily work, it's actually about creating leadership, creating this sense of belonging to an organization or to a company, let's say. So, this is a really great opportunity.
Yeah, it's
Yep,
like one big family.
of course. So, before we dig into our episode for today, can you tell us about your company a little bit, OT Engineering Solutions, if you may?
Yes, well, OT Engineering Solutions, you can find it at www.otis.co.uk, whoever wants to check it out. We provide cloud-based engineering services for the architecture and engineering and construction industry. We basically produce intelligent 3D models
Mm-hmm.
that help professionals in the field to optimize their work, to check the accuracy of their work. For example, if they're designing a building or if they're constructing a project, for example.
Yeah.
So we provide the production of this service, producing those intelligent 3D models for companies who do not have the in-house capability to do so. So we focus on digitizing the processes of companies, and the main product is that intelligent 3D model. But in general, the whole service and set of services revolves around switching from analog to digital in the industry.
Mm-hmm. So basically, taking this new opportunity of 3D CAD programs, 3D modeling, and transforming it into a solution.
Yeah, well, I'll have to say something here that it's
Yeah.
actually switching from CAD to something that we call building information modeling.
Mm-hmm.
So what we're trying to do is to raise the awareness to ditch the CAD processes
Mm-hmm.
and just go for full digitization instead of working on a set of 2D CAD plans. We're now working with a set of intelligent 3D models that are linked with parameters and information. So it's object-oriented modeling
Mm-hmm.
instead of 2D CAD drawings.
Yeah, I get you. And this is why you are a perfect fit for tonight's episode.
Well, thank you
So,
so much. It's a pleasure
you
to
are
hear that.
welcome. To start off, as I mentioned today, we're gonna discuss the 8 P's of entrepreneurship set by Nina Angelovska, and we're gonna have a little bit of discussion, me and Tala, about them. So let's start. The first point that Nina actually mentioned was passion. So, as she said and elaborated on passion, Nina said actually that in order for you to be an entrepreneur, you should have that driving force and thrive to success. So, can you tell us more what was your thrive to success and what made you actually initiate your company and have this sense of wanting to have your own thing?
Well, I'll tell you something. OT Engineering Solutions, and this is
Mm-hmm.
not something that not everybody know, is not my first startup actually. It is my second startup. I started the first company in 2016, mid
Mm-hmm.
2016, and it was offering the same service. And my drive and my passion was I love technology. I studied architecture. However, I've always found myself more inclined toward innovative solutions and
Mm-hmm.
technology rather than just designing. And I wanted to share this with other people and with other companies to just show them that there are smarter processes out there. There are smarter things that you can do. You can do the work faster if you pick smarter ways to do it. You know, I'm a firm believer that people should work smarter, not harder, you know?
Exactly.
And I wanted to share that.
Yeah.
And I found a huge passion in what we do, which is in building information modeling, basically.
Mm-hmm.
I love the workflows, the processes, how it's done. It was very interesting to me. And I started reading more and more about it. And I thought, okay, why should I just inform myself alone
Mm-hmm.
about that instead of sharing the knowledge with everybody else and helping professionals and companies also digitize their processes and change the way of traditional working environments,
Yeah.
so to say. This was my main passion, to be honest. And since then until now, I feel like we still need a lot in the industry, especially in the architecture and construction
Mm-hmm.
industry. We need to work smarter, and this is what I'm advocating.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So, passion is a really important thing for you in order to excel. And as you mentioned, this is your second startup. I just want to point out that every experience that we face, we won't get out of it without getting something, of course. So, of course, you had your experience, your market research, market targets, and that what made you build your second startup, and hopefully it will be one of the
Definitely.
first startups. Yeah, in your
And
in your
this is the thing about passion, Muhammad.
Mhm.
Even if you face hardships along the way, if you love what you do, because I mean, passion is just the key, you know,
Yeah,
nothing will knock you down. You're just going to keep wanting to go there and do what you're passionate about. So even
yeah.
if it's hard, even if there are some obstacles along the way, you're just get up and
Hmm.
do it again.
Yeah, of course. Passion is the key to mastering a skill and
Yeah.
mastering an experience. Yeah. On the other hand, I want to ask you a question. Don't you think that sometimes passion can be limiting, as it may or may not hold one's thought in one direction? So, for example, you mentioned that you were passionate in architecture, but at the same time, you were passionate in technology. Don't you think that sometimes one's passion will drive him towards a direction, even though that the market doesn't need this thing that he's passionate about in this moment?
Well, I think this is where being smart about it comes,
Mm-hmm.
how you employ your passion. how you do something that you love while still offering an innovative product that is in need. It's
Mm-hmm.
how you choose to drive your passion along the way. Or let's say you have a passion for something. If you look at it from one perspective, it could be limiting. But if you try to open up your mind a little bit and you
Yeah.
try looking at it from another perspective, then you can turn your passion into something that is really amazing and really valuable and adds so much value to other people's lives.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, this is actually what the basic model of startups are, which is finding a problem and then innovating a solution for it and then start marketing it. So basically, this process gives you a lot of experience, as you mentioned, and it's actually built up by your passion towards it, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we mentioned the business model, and we said that in order for you to see a gap, or in order for you, sorry, to have a base of your startup or your business, you must have a problem or you must have a gap that you want to fulfill, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes, even if there isn't a gap,
Mm-hmm.
or even if there isn't a problem, sometimes
Yeah.
you have something, you can offer a certain product in a way that is more innovative than what's available on the market.
Yes,
So
of course.
sometimes
Yeah.
there isn't, sometimes there's a gap in innovation and not a gap in the actual product.
Yes,
The product
exactly.
could be a service or a tangible product or anything at
Mm-hmm.
all, but it's just how you look at the opportunity.
Yeah, this is exactly a new type of gaps, let's say, if you want to see it
Yeah.
from that side. Yeah. How do you see the mind of an entrepreneur seeing that gap and having a future vision of what is going to be needed and what's not in the market in terms of technology, in terms of services, products? How did you see that in your startup?
Well, I'm just going to talk about it in general first and then
Yeah,
in my startup specifically, and how we looked at the opportunity and what drove me to start this company altogether.
yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So we're just looking at opportunities, and an entrepreneur should see the opportunity where other can't or don't. And
Exactly.
spotting the opportunity alone is not enough. You have to do something about it and you have to be innovative while doing it.
Mm-hmm.
So just spotting the problem or spotting a gap in the market or an opportunity is simply not enough anymore. And we have to learn from past experiences.
Mm-hmm.
The world is filled with experiences, and this is what entrepreneurs need to look at when they build their business model.
Yeah.
And when I started my company, I was looking at the market and I identified the gap that we had lack of expertise in that area, which is the production of building information models.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to fill that gap by offering the service to other companies and other professionals, and two, training other professionals to do the service themselves. Because Mohammed, think about it, like when
Yeah.
automated drafting and tools like AutoCAD came into the
Mm-hmm.
market, people who knew to use the tool were just smart, were
Yeah.
on demand, everybody wanted to work with them, everybody wanted to hire them. And now we're facing that second shift or second change in the industry where we're switching from CAD. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
earlier on, we switched from paper to from manual drafting
Programmed.
to digital drafting, and now
Yeah.
we're switching from CAD to BIM. And it's
Mm-hmm.
the same revolution of change. So I wanted to make use of that. And instead of leaving other companies and other professionals to seek knowledge from elsewhere, I wanted
Mm-hmm.
to be that entity who's supporting others learn and gain the knowledge.
Yeah.
And sometimes identifying the gap and seeing the opportunity it's not enough for the time being. You need to look further. So now what I'm doing is that I'm anticipating the future and just looking 10 years from now or 5 years from now, how is the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity going to look like for my company? Are
This
we
is
going to
exactly.
offer the same service, or the service has to change? And by default, I know already that the service has to change.
Yeah.
So I think this is where the business model comes in, and the perception of opportunity, which is the second P
Mm-hmm.
of the 8 Ps of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
is that identifying the opportunity now and anticipating and overlooking how the opportunity is going to look 5 years from now or 10
Mm-hmm.
years from now, and how the business model is going to change accordingly.
Yep, I totally agree. So this is basically having a future vision. This is reading the future, if you want to say that, in a metaphor. So
Yeah.
yeah, I wanted to comment on one thing that you said and have a little bit of discussion around it. You mentioned that the market shifted in one place or in one time where people or architects stopped using paper and swapped to digital. And now they're swapping from digital to BIM technologies.
Yeah.
Yeah. I believe you have used the digital and the BIM technologies, right?
Yes.
Yep, and this is where my next point comes in. You faced this market shift. You faced the market needs changing from digital to a newer technology. How did you adapt to that in your startup?
Well, actually, I'm not in the generation of people who experience the two shifts in the real sense of it.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, when I was in the university, and it's so funny because you and I attended the CAD course together,
Yeah.
and now I'm promoting something else. um, but I learned CAD software, AutoCAD, for example, at the university. However, I stopped using it also in the
Mm-hmm.
university. And so I didn't really experience the shift that, for example, the older generation faced, where they switched
Mm-hmm.
actually from paper drafting to CAD. However, now what I'm
Mm-hmm.
experiencing is that while CAD is digital as a tool, it is not, the workflow is not digital, it's still a manual workflow.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm finding it very interesting to see how people are coping with that mechanism of change. In the beginning, I've seen people 3 years ago, for example, I've
Yeah.
experienced people rejecting that change and
Mm-hmm.
not wanting to switch to the new workflows and the new tools and all that. And it was a challenge to change the mindsets of the people to be more
Yeah.
applicable to the product that I'm offering.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's very interesting to me to see that now they're more interested in it. We are past the resistance phase, so to
Mm-hmm.
say.
Yeah.
And this is what I would say is interesting about my experience, that it's not exactly the shift from CAD to BIM, or from, sorry, from analog
Mm-hmm.
drafting to CAD, but to see how people are perceiving the change. I can only imagine how it was when AutoCAD
Yeah.
was introduced, for example.
Yep, yep, I totally agree. Especially that when mentioning entrepreneurs and changing, some people or regular people, let's say, they see this change as something as a limitation, and they see it as something negative that we have to face. But on the other side, entrepreneurs see it as an open space for development. They see it as a new business. They see it
Yeah.
as an opportunity where they can excel. Isn't that right?
That is absolutely agree. And
Yep.
I like this thing about change, because change is a wonderful tool.
Mm-hmm.
And entrepreneurs do realize that if they want something, they have to change, and they have
Mm-hmm.
to drive change as well. Because,
Yeah.
Mohammed, everybody wants to change.
Yep.
Everybody wants change, but nobody wants to change. You know what I mean?
I
And
totally agree.
entrepreneurs have that flexibility, and they adapt to change quickly. And if plan A doesn't work, then we shift to plan B. And if plan B doesn't work, the alphabet has 26 letters.
Yeah.
And and this is and successful innovators, I don't think that in the 21st century, now today, we're asking people to think differently. Successful innovators ask their clients to become different people,
Mm-hmm.
they transform their customers. And this is, I think, is key to success. And I'm a
Mm-hmm.
firm believer in the butterfly effect,
Yeah.
which basically says that small things have non-linear impact on
Mm-hmm.
complex systems. And I think entrepreneurs are that drive for change in the society and in the world in general, because
Yeah.
they start change and they drive it. And
Mm-hmm.
this is
They
also
cause this change.
leadership. We lead by example.
Yeah, they are the trendsetters, let's say.
Yeah.
And this is basically what entrepreneurs try to do. They see optimism and they create the best out of circumstances. This ironically rings a bell in my head about a biology class where in high school where we talk about Charles Darwin, and he mentions that it is not the strongest of the species that survive, nor the most intelligent. It's actually the best fit, and I can see a relation here between best fit in terms of biology and in terms of business, because what entrepreneurs are trying to be here is the change themselves, being the best fit in order to cope with a new
Yes.
world.
You have
Yeah.
to adapt, you have to evolve, you have to change. And sometimes we spoke about the business model a little ago. Sometimes
Mhm.
you have a business model, it seems so perfect, so amazing, it works well in the beginning, and then you
Yeah.
have to change because the market needs change, for example, or
Yeah.
certain circumstances change. So this is the thing about entrepreneurs. They
Hmm.
adapt quickly and they change, and they're so flexible.
Even if they don't change, let's if they don't, I mean success. Let's take it that side. They will gain some experience that will make them do something else and excel in it and succeed. So
Definitely.
basically, it's a win-win situation.
Definitely. I
Yeah.
couldn't agree more.
Yeah, and this is something that I see as I mentioned, the win-win situation because you get the knowledge, you get to learn how to do things either differently or in a perfect way, in a more perfect way, which makes us humans develop and get the right knowledge uh, for this let's say time or this period of time.
Totally.
Yeah. So, what do you think of the barriers of knowledge of learning? Let's say between a person and an entrepreneur. If we said that an entrepreneur, of course, as we mentioned, he takes this opportunity and see it as a learning opportunity. Why do you think some people base their success or not based on the barriers they are facing? Can't we just let's say jump from this barrier.
Well, I think it's a matter of perspective and a matter of personal opinion, how
Mm,
you let barriers or challenges affect you. Some people see a mountain and they stop. Some
mm,
people see the mountain, then they climb up.
yeah,
So it depends how we want to think and look at the situations around us. It's either we choose to look at the full part of the glass or the empty part, you know.
yeah,
And this is what makes a person an entrepreneur and another not. It's not that they have different abilities or that they are entrepreneurs, they're alien, that they come from a different planet. It's just that they realize their true potentials and they believe in persistence learning and that knowledge is power. So if I don't know how to do something, I'll learn it.
yeah,
Another person, for example, would just stop, be depressed that they cannot do this or cannot do that, and just stop there. And this
I
is this
couldn't
is
agree
what I
more.
think is interesting about the human brain.
Mm,
Entrepreneurs realize that the power lies in their brain. They feed their brains with knowledge, and you know the mind is what the mind is fed.
mm,
And if you invest in your potentials, you reach your true potentials. And
yeah,
this is the human brain is so elastic, and you can just expand it as much as you want. But it's a
mm,
personal choice to do that. You either stop at the barriers and say, no, I cannot do this, I give up, or you just keep pushing harder and harder.
yes, yes, I totally agree. I actually love a very, I see it as very useful saying, which would state that sometimes you aren't given equal chances, but you are given equivalent one. So, as you mentioned, some people would have some differences in their chances, but on the other hand, if we see the bigger picture, they would have equivalent one, equivalent one. So basically, they won't have the same thing, but they will have another thing that will open more doors for them. Yes,
Definitely.
so
And sometimes if there isn't a door, you just build one. I
of
really
course.
like this. I
Yeah.
really like the saying. This if there isn't a door, if the opportunity is not knocking, you
Hmm.
just find it out. You create it. And it's
Yeah.
up to us to create the opportunities, to seize them, to build doors. If the door is locked, just break it.
Hmm.
Just I'm a firm believer that we should not stop. If we want something, and this is also linked to passion again, if you love something, you'll find a way to do it.
Yeah. Well, actions speak louder, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah. If we look back at
totally.
time, 20 or 25 years ago, Microsoft wasn't a thing, Facebook wasn't a thing. They created themselves. They opened those doors, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Even with the toughest barriers they have, if we look back at their stories, they had the toughest times. They had really bad people around them that are being pessimistic to them. So I totally agree with you, yeah, on that.
This is one of the greatest barriers, you know, and
Hmm.
the greatest challenges,
Hmm.
the people around us.
Yeah,
It can be both a blessing and it can make a person's life hell, especially an entrepreneur.
yeah,
You can
yeah,
either
yeah.
get support from those around you, or a lot of people will just try to crush you down and tell you, no, you're young, you cannot do this, don't risk it.
Hmm.
But that's all just, you know, I mean, some people would choose to
Yeah.
listen to that and be depressed about it,
Hmm.
and other would just okay listen and say, okay, you know what? You
Yeah.
keep saying what you're saying. I'm gonna make it anyway.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, this is actually one point of what Nina said, which is people. As you mentioned, people may be optimistic, pessimistic, have different friends, different viewpoints, and of course, you don't need to listen to anyone. Just listen to your soul, listen to what your mind said. I want to discuss, and elaborating on this point, the role of parents and schools. How do you see in our, let's say, in our families, in the um, uh, Middle East, let's say family, Arabian families, do you see the parents as positive as let's say the other side, the Far East, or do you think we must change?
Well, I think I'm just gonna look at it from the bigger perspective and then I'm gonna speak about myself from the bigger scale.
Mm-hmm.
Generally, I cannot generalize and say that all
Of
parents
course.
don't give their children the chance to
Mm-hmm.
expand their wings and fly. Because in you have some super supportive families, and you have some
Yeah.
families who just want the safest for their kids. They want their kids to have a consistent salary, something
Mm-hmm.
fixed for the future. So I am not a parent, and I cannot put myself in a parent's shoe because
Mm-hmm.
it's simply just not possible. But I assume that every parent and every person has their own perspective of looking at things. Some parents would support their children and tell them, okay, you go live your dream. And some parents' perspective would say, okay, I want to support my kid, but I'm just so worried. So their way of supporting is by being protective.
Yeah.
And I think
So.
personally, for me, I mean, I've had the I mean, the most, I can't even find words to describe it
Mm-hmm.
actually, but my mom was always so supportive, and my brother and my cousins as well. They
Mm-hmm.
were all so supportive all the time. And this made me feel so powerful. Like, even
Yes.
if I fall down on my face, I still have people cheering for me, supporting me. And it gives you that feeling, that you're just a
Mm-hmm.
superhero, you're unbreakable. And I
Yeah.
think this was great. And this was one of the most important things in my journey as an entrepreneur, that
Yeah.
I was so excited. I had support, and even at times when I couldn't achieve what I had in mind,
Mm-hmm.
I still felt supportive. And I think that this is what we should do when we find someone around us with a new idea,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it was our son, our daughter, a friend, a brother, a sister. We just have to support them all the way, and just fuel
Mm-hmm.
them with good energy and just be there for them, because this really makes a huge effect in an entrepreneur's life.
Yes, it really does. Surrounding yourself with positivity is the key for excelling in what you love and what you
Definitely.
like to do. Yeah. So if you have negative people, just cut it off. Cut the negativity from your surroundings in order for you to believe in yourself and believe in what you want and believe that you can do it.
Definitely. And I
Yeah.
have to stress on a very important
Yeah.
point is that we have to give double the support for women, because women, not only in Jordan or in the Middle East, all over the world, need that support, to just
Mm-hmm.
step out of their comfort zone, step out of the norm, and just do it.
Yeah, I totally agree. We have a comment here. I believe it's your aunt, Sahar Ghoti. He said your aunt is supportive too.
Yeah, my aunt
Yeah.
is supportive too. Yes.
You forgot to mention her.
Hi, Sahar, how are you? You're the best.
Yeah. So, stressing more on that point, do you think that schools are doing their job in building one's personality of entrepreneurship? Because if you look at businesses right now, all businesses trends, all business models and business structures are shifting towards entrepreneurs and intrapreneurs. Do you think schools are doing well in that side?
Okay, Mohammed, before I answer this question,
Mm-hmm.
actually now I'm receiving text messages from my friends who are telling me, Walid, one of my best friends, is saying, okay, I'm supporting you too, not only your aunt. I
This is
have
the
to say,
energy.
guys,
Yeah, this
thanks
is
to
the energy you have
everybody
to
who's
surround.
supporting me, my family, my friends, my students,
Yeah.
everybody. I'm sorry if I missed anyone, but I love you guys all, and your support means the world to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to your question, if the education system is supporting entrepreneurs and
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneurial way of thinking, well, then again, I cannot generalize. However, what I'm noticing is that most of,
Mm-hmm.
or generally, the education system is just too limiting. You just want students to study, get good grades,
Mm-hmm.
perform the way they are expected to perform. But
Mm-hmm.
I'm against that. I mean, different people have different abilities. Some people are interested in things, some people are interested in others. So I believe that the education systems should be more elastic and flexible
Mm-hmm.
to allow for innovation. Some people
Yeah.
might just be interested in a specific subject and not in another.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how we can change that, but I think being in the education system myself, as
Mm-hmm.
I'm part of the university, I believe that we should just give room for students to, just be creative,
Yeah.
give them room to express their feelings, do things differently. And this is what
Yes.
we're lacking in society. We've been doing the same things in all industries all over again, the same way we've been doing it for 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's about time that we change in the way we think, in the way we behave, and in the way we perform
Yeah.
and execute. And this is what schools and education systems should focus on, being more
Mm-hmm.
elastic and flexible to allow room for innovation.
Yep, and I can assure that from my perspective, and I believe from all student perspective, that education in Jordan, let's say, and in the Arab region, generally speaking, looking at the bigger picture, is very limiting, as you mentioned. There's no flexibility. It's a one direction path. It's either you take these courses, memorize them, and get good grades, or you're a failure in the society. And this is actually nothing compared to what real entrepreneurs do. When
Well,
mentioning,
I hope the course I've given you,
yeah,
Muhammad, was flexible and innovative and creative.
actually, yes, I loved that course because this course, as you mentioned, had a project at the end, and it was up to you. You be as creative as you want, which is really
Yeah.
what all courses should do. Yeah, because
Well,
uh,
I'm glad you
uh,
enjoyed it.
yes,
I showed your
Einstein.
project, by the way, to everybody. Everybody. I carried it around and showed it to everyone because it was so creative and innovative. Thank you so
Thank you
much.
so much. Yes, mentioning that creativity, Einstein once said, everybody is smart, but you can't judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree. I see
Yeah.
this saying as very wise and very applicable on today's situations because, as he mentions, we don't all have the same capabilities and abilities, but each has his own, which is what
Yeah.
the school systems should focus on, really.
Individuality. I agree. I
Exactly.
absolutely agree.
Yeah. Getting back to your startup, Tala, tell me, you don't have employees, right?
Actually, we did at some point when we had
Mm-hmm.
a lot of business going on,
Mm-hmm.
but right now we don't
Yeah.
because, again, this is again being an entrepreneur and
Mm-hmm.
having to just go with whatever happens with the business and change your model accordingly.
Yeah.
But especially now with these times of the coronavirus and being a
Yeah.
small startup with a limited budget, it's not easy to maintain full-time employees all the
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I just wanted
But
to
I
point
mean,
out, yeah,
yeah, tell me.
yeah. So, mentioning people and how people around you can affect you, one main effect that a person or an entrepreneur can get is from his upper stage, so his either leader or manager. For you
Yeah.
personally, do you think all businesses should have this type of mentality of creating an entrepreneur rather than creating an employee?
Well, you mean in creating an entrepreneur rather an employee. So you just want to move away from the hierarchy of having a
Mm-hmm.
boss and having someone delegating to do things. And this
Yeah.
is something I absolutely agree with.
Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, even me being employed or employing people or dealing with teams,
Mm-hmm.
I just don't believe that being in that position of owning a company or of the one being in charge, for example,
Mm-hmm.
gives you a privilege or makes you better than anyone working with you.
Mm-hmm.
And I often never use the word work for me or I'm
Mm-hmm.
working for someone or someone is working for me because I believe
Yeah.
we are one team, we work together. So if I
Exactly.
have someone that are working with me, and I think companies should focus on building entrepreneurs and
Mm-hmm.
creating entrepreneurs and fostering that because you need to create, expand, and allow people to reach their potentials
Mm-hmm.
so that they are proactive. They don't need to be told what to do. And this makes productivity higher, the returns on the company
Mm-hmm.
itself are higher. So if we just work as one team,
Yeah.
respecting that being in different hierarchical position doesn't mean that one is better than the other.
Mm-hmm.
Builds up the whole team because you technically need everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, what is an entrepreneur without the team, and what is the team without a leader? You know, they
Yep, I
both
couldn't
complete
agree
each
more.
other. You cannot separate them.
Hmm. You mentioned a point where, at one stage, if you're building entrepreneurs that work with you, not for you, at one point you'll be able to delegate work for them reliably, and personally for you, it will be efficient and effective. And this is what businesses should do, which is,
Yeah, and I think even
yeah.
people with entrepreneurial mindset
Hmm.
don't even need to be told what to do. You don't even need to
Yep,
delegate
I
tasks.
totally agree. Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
they're just proactive, and they're often in defense in like in they just do. You know,
yeah.
they're
They
not in
do what
defense
they're not
mode.
asked for.
They're
They do what they're not expected for.
exactly.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And they start and they initiate. They find the work themselves and they do what they love.
Yes.
Yep. Stressing also on that point, I see this as very, let's say, a very good point in creating potential in one's personality for entrepreneurs. What do you think?
Mhm. Yeah, potential again. It's about people realizing their true potential and investing in it.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what also other entrepreneurs and other leaders should do is support people around them to reach their true potential.
Mm-hmm. But reaching through potential wouldn't be easy, of course. You'd have to sacrifice hours of sleep, you'd have to sacrifice social activities, sometimes your friend, of course, your friends.
Yeah, my
This
friends
is not
complain a
easy.
lot. They complain a lot.
Yeah, I wanted to
They're
ask you
so
about that.
supportive. They're so supportive, but they
Yeah.
complain a lot that I'm not joining hangouts, that I'm
Mhm.
not always ready to go. But no, they understand and they support me. And they just
Yeah,
know that I'm busy building something. So sorry,
yeah,
friends.
yeah, yeah. This is actually very important, as we mentioned, that having supportive surrounding is very good for a person or a personality and a mentality in order for it to grow and have this sense of belonging to either their surroundings or to sometimes their friends. I mean, but life is not always about having friends, having fun, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. I wanna ask you about something related to AIESEC here. This in this sense, let's mix
Yeah.
a bit of entrepreneurship and leadership. The thing AIESEC wants in the youth that volunteer in it is creating leadership in the first place, and that's why they offer leadership positions.
Mhm.
Did you have any leadership positions with AIESEC before just we start?
Unfortunately, I didn't
Mm-hmm.
because of the timing I joined ISEC in Jordan. I had to leave back to go to Germany, and so I couldn't handle a full term to be in a leadership position, so I couldn't apply. And then when I was in Germany, I had to go to the internship, and I could change. There was
Mm-hmm.
a chance of changing cities, so
Mm-hmm.
I'm really sad that I never had the opportunity while
Mm-hmm.
being in ISEC to apply for any leadership position. But I've
Yeah.
seen my friends do it. I've seen my brother do it, who's an ISECer
Mm-hmm.
as well, and it was
Nice.
just great. It was just amazing.
Yeah, so it's a family full of icicers, I believe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
because
brothers, siblings, and the cousins.
me, as I mentioned, as a personal experience, it created in me a lot. It created sense of belonging. It created entrepreneurship. Actually, it created leadership, and it really made a change in me. So I advise everyone watching, if you have the chance to join, just do it.
I agree. I agree. I
Mm-hmm.
again encourage all my students and any young person who's listening to just go for it because it's an amazing experience. And
Mm-hmm.
speaking about siblings and cousins in ISIC and being in the family, I have
Yeah.
to give a huge shout out to Farah, my cousin, for being like the
Yes.
best ISIC out there.
We have to give her this shout out as the Isaac way. If you can
Definitely.
remember that.
The roll calls. I miss the roll calls and the moves and
Yeah.
the shout out.
See, people see it as something silly, but actually, when you do it, it's really engaging.
Yeah.
I agree. Yep. And the last point that we have today on our agenda is perseverance and commitment.
Yeah.
Having one committed to something that he likes or she likes is very hard. Being committed to one thing and having perseverance just for that one thing, I believe is really, really hard, personally. Have you personally, for OT, you have you thought about quitting at one point?
Yes, of course. I'd be lying if I said I didn't think about quitting.
Yeah, and what made
I
you
did
not?
think, and you see, it's not the thought of quitting itself. It's just the thought of thinking, okay, why am I doing this,
Mm-hmm.
spending all my time and my resources? And you know, being an entrepreneur sounds a lot fancier than it really is, especially in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. People think, oh wow, you have your own business, you must be making a lot of money.
Mm-hmm.
You're just surrounded by success and cash and this and that. And
Mm-hmm.
this is really not the case, you know.
Yeah.
When it's a startup, you just put all your time in it, you put all your energy, you don't sleep, you put all your money. So there were points in my life where I was thinking, okay, I'm spending all the money I'm making
Mm-hmm.
from other sources on this startup. I'm putting all my energy.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes I have zero social life. Why should I be doing that? I can just go and get a job and be like
Yeah.
really well paid and just enjoy life and you know and just have that stress-free life
Mm-hmm.
where I don't have to think, okay, what's next for my startup? And I think this is where your passion fuels you and your passion keeps you going, is
Yeah.
that despite difficulties and despite that there is delay in achieving success, and this is a very important point, because when you're passionate about something and you
Mm-hmm.
want to succeed, then you get surprised that okay, things will take way longer than you planned,
Mm-hmm.
and then you have to you have to adapt. So I think this is it, and this is my motto actually, that
Yeah.
if I fall, I have to stand up, and I did fall on my face many times,
Mm-hmm.
and I stood up every time. And this is what I'm planning to do, and this is what I encourage everybody to do, not only in business
Yeah.
or entrepreneurship, just in everything in life.
Mm-hmm.
Just like the Japanese say, if you fall 7 times, stand up eight.
Yeah, I totally agree. And always remember that the journey starts with a step. As you mentioned, you have to fall and fall and fall and fall. But actually, each fall gives you this thing in your personality, gives you the know how, gives you this thing in your knowledge, adds up to your knowledge until you reach the top of the pyramid, let's say, where you can excel actually and perform what you love and love what you perform.
Definitely, definitely.
Yep.
Because when you fall from something,
Mm-hmm.
you're unlikely to fall from the same thing again, because you learn and then you just know. And then there's another difficulty that
Yeah,
comes along the way, and you just have to keep facing challenges and
exactly. Yes.
overcoming them. And it's and this is life in general, not only in
Yes.
business or
Yeah.
entrepreneurial,
I totally
perspective.
agree. Difficulties are all around us, obstacles are all around us. They're surrounding us from everywhere. So either choose to ignore them or you either
Yeah.
choose to face them and actually find a solution, which is the harder choice, but on the end, it's more rewarding.
And this is the thing about hardships. And
Mhm.
often people quit when they fail, when there's a hardship or a challenge, and or when they fail, they just quit. And I think one should just keep failing and failing until they succeed and get what they want.
Mhm. Yes, because actually, failing is not what we actually know. Failing is stop trying. This is
Yes,
a really good motto to follow. Failing is stopping
just trying.
trying.
I
Yes.
agree.
Now, actually, I finished my side, but I want a personal thing from you. I want a message that you'd give to the people watching and the people that will watch after this live. Just a small tip, a small advice from you as Tala to the people watching.
A small tip to the people who are watching.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to make it general, not for entrepreneurs or not about entrepreneurship
Yes,
only.
sure.
But I believe in individuality and the
Mm-hmm.
freedom to do whatever you want. And I would just encourage everybody to believe in themselves and
Mm-hmm.
just believe in their potentials and work to reach their true potentials and not just care at all about what anybody else think. Be
Yeah.
different, be yourself, be free, and be the change you want to see in the world.
Mm-hmm. I
That would
totally
be my
agree with
message.
you. This was it, Tala. Thank you so much for attending. Thank you for your tips, for your advices. Thank you to the people that attended here. And I want to finish off this episode with one small quote by Mark Twain. which says that the secret of getting ahead is actually getting started. And that was it for
Thank
our
you so much,
episode.
Muhammad, for
Again,
having me. Thank you
thank
so
you,
much.
Tala. And that's it. Thank you all.